It's time to be serious, so listen closely. Today, welcome to Aveya Talks. This is the time where I'll be choosing to open up on my own life, as well as offering time for much needed general discussion. For starters, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I live within the Western society of civilization, specifically in the United States, in the state of Michigan, also recognized as the Midwest, part of the Midwest region. And something I really want to be keen on today is the utmost realism within the modern day age of Western society. Now, for somebody like me, I have been an accounting professional since the beginning of 2021. I graduated with my bachelor's degree from Northwood University as of December 2020. I know, what a time for that to happen, right? During the transition of the COVID era, or many other terms that people will call that. And something that I have been dealing with, as well as many other people, is unemployment. Or really just trying to find a sense of surviving when our ancestors, or those in more fortunate times, were more able to thrive compared to survive. And let me put it to you like this. Within the accounting field, or finance, accounting and finance kind of comes together, right? Ever since the time of around the end of 2024, within the United States of America, there was a massive change in the government sector that caused a lot of individuals within the field, and likely the ones who were most affected by the essence of government layoffs and as well as termination of many job opportunities, which, to be honest, anybody could look at how the overall impact from the side of how the government has been handling their budgets. You could tell that many things have been wrong for a long time. So they're very needed to this day, though there is always going to be more work to be done regarding that. The reason why I bring that up now is because somebody like myself, who used to work in county government sector within the state of Michigan, I have a strong background of experience given that I have been within the field for a few years. But even somebody of my caliber is having the most difficult time finding a sense of employment in this day of age. The majority of jobs in the accounting and finance field, it's very difficult to find a single job that does not showcase on any of the job boards, that does not showcase more than 100 applicants have applied to already within 24 hours, by the way. It's incredibly crazy. I've never seen a time like this before. And now, backdating to all of the changes that happened in the government sector, there is certainly a correlation between that factor from all of the changes in the government. So though I may not be the only person experiencing this within the field, there has absolutely been some form of a recessionary period due to all of the overhanging changes, as well as, of course, the adjustments to the cost of living. And for those who are not within the field of accounting and finance, because not everybody is, of course, let me paint you an analogy here. You look at a single job application, and we'll give a sample size of 100 people, which is fairly normal in this time of being, right? So if you have 100 people that have applied to this role, and that employer is selecting a single person to be hired, well, in a lot of standards, typically we'll look at the top 10%. So if you take the top 10% of those 100 candidates, of course I say 100 plus for a lot of these roles, so there's more than that. But for the sake of math and keeping things clear and simple, this is what we'll state for today. So you have 100 applicants, top 10% are chosen, 10 individuals are selected for an interview. Out of those 10 individuals, because it's the top 10 percentile of the people that have been applying to this role, you're going to, generally speaking, have 10 outstanding candidates. And as these employers are going to go through, they're only choosing one person. So of course, what's your likelihood of being chosen? Statistically speaking, 10%. What becomes difficult is the fact that you are now just, even as being chosen for this process, you're still just a variable, because you could easily still be outshined in whatever way that the employer is deciding. Because the employer is a human being and you're working with real people. So ultimately, even if you come into an interview process and you're giving the best answers that you can give, you're answering everything correctly, accurately, presenting information, not just answering the questions, but also being very real and human, there's still a chance that you may not be selected. It sounds crazy because this has never really happened like this before. But when it all comes down to it, there's a human being on the other side that is choosing what in their mind was the best version of what they're looking for, right? So it does not matter of statistical representation. You could be the above average individual, but there could be a very specific characteristic that outshined from one of those 10 people that ultimately they turned to, and then they said, yep, that's the one that they want. Whether or not it was actually best for the company or what other terms that they're implementing to be able to find this choice, that's what they're going with. Because we're talking about people. People are incredibly complex. That's just the realism in how this goes. And I'm sure accounting and finance is not the only field that is struggling in a similar manner, but now you see the understanding of what it feels to be in my shoes, where I am someone who has 4 years of, after obtaining my bachelor's degree, of experience, and I'm capable of having a senior level and potentially even an executive level of impact in a role, but yet there is this massive struggle of trying to get somewhere. But of course, beyond the job market, there are so many other issues that can be acknowledged. Home affordability crisis. I am fortunate enough to be able to state that I own a home, but I acknowledge deeply that there are many others, older and younger than me, that are not fortunate to be able to have the same thing. And if you are one of those people, remember that there are others out there like myself that we still appreciate you for what you do. And quite frankly, don't feel bad about it, because out of my entire close group of friends, only one of them owns some form of property besides me. But like myself, he also went with an incredibly cheap option in comparison to what's average. Inevitably, there are a lot of people out there who are struggling to have some form of shelter, let alone trying to own it themselves outright. But the biggest thing nowadays is the factor of, but regardless of the broad scheme of everything nowadays, and there's a lot of issues, and again, there's a lot of other social and cultural issues that can really come into play. But the one I really want to highlight is the fact that in the real feel, right? We're not talking about the climate and the weather outside, but in the real feel, when you step outside of your comfort zone, to be average or to be recognized as average is a punishment. And I really want that to sink in for a moment. To be considered average in the real feel, what it feels like is a punishment. Whether you are trying to excel in your dating life, or you're trying to excel in your work environment, trying to get into having a new job, inevitably there is a limit to competition, but there's always going to be that set standard of course, what are people going to be drawn to more often than not? Those who can provide some form of value. Those of the people that you surround yourself with inevitably will change you in some capacity sooner or later if you allow it. And in my world of things, when you're recognized as being average, you're often represented as a variable on a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet, Excel files, you get it, it's a pun. But truth be told, when you're represented as a variable, a statistical number of value, not a human being that is complex, full of so many different uniqueness about a single person, you become replaceable. So a variable in a spreadsheet is what? average, and replaceable. But I really want to take a moment and just have this self-talk between you and I. In some aspects, I try to gamify things on this YouTube channel. And so here's a good opportunity to be able to do it now. If you were to consider the average person within your society or your county jurisdiction or your municipality, your province, your region, you name it, whatever categorization. And for me, I could say the average person within the United States, a citizen of the United States. If you were to give a letter rating for that average person, what would it be? A ranking, a tier, right? A tier of E, D, E being the worst. So on the scale of from E to S, E being the worst, again, this is a gamified variation here. E tier, D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, S tier, amazing, outstanding, brilliant, you name it. The problem that I have is, again, going along the lines of what I just said a moment ago, if being average feels like a punishment, then honestly, what I have witnessed on a lot of terms is that on average, I can't exactly say if I were to go around and say the average person is brilliant, I would be lying, okay? If I were to go around and say the average person is outstanding and wonderful to talk to, I would be lying. So therefore, if I had to choose a letter rating that from the average person, from the standards of what I've not only witnessed but experienced throughout my 28 years of being alive so far, I would give it D tier. D tier is bad, not good. So now to be able to resemble that, if the average person is a representation of D tier, then if I was looking at this gamified example and you are given the fact that you're being told you are D tier, obviously things have to change, right? That would be the proper way to look at it. And so in this hyper competitive atmosphere nowadays, the average person is D tier, and I do not want to be chosen that. I refuse to be recognized as D tier. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get any level above that. But why do I have to do that? Because in many previous years, that wasn't a requirement. But nowadays it is. To be D tier was okay at some point in time within previous years. You get what I'm trying to say here? And now I want you to be honest with me. Do you feel hollow? And when I say hollow, this is a link to the lore that I built on this channel. Give it a moment, it will make sense. When I say hollow, I'm asking, do you feel depressed, burnout, you name it? A lot of different words somebody can use there, but inevitably they really come together as a combination to mean the same thing. But why do I say the word hollow? Because I use these gamified terms, D tier, to be hollow, because they feel much more manageable and easier to process. If it's a stat, a measurement of one's capability, then we can increase it. Now let's go ahead and say if your current situation is like a rank, then you can evolve it. We don't have to be forever gate kept at whatever that rank is or whatever your situation is. And I certainly refuse to be stuck in whatever situations that I have been placed into. So if you're feeling empty, you aren't broken. You just lost the energy that you've depleted based on the choices of what you have been forced to make. You've spent all of your energy trying to survive a system that wasn't built for you. And that is why I continue to choose to rebuild systems within my own life that are going to forcefully get me to be in a better situation. Because otherwise, there could be a time where I drift off, and the next thing I know, I'm still stuck in D tier, or worse, I'm going down to E tier, right? And nobody wants to go that far. But if you do, we need to find a way to bring ourselves back up. So inevitably, what am I going to do now? I have worked with countless numbers of recruiters. I would say on average around 10 within the past 4 months. But one thing I've come to the realization is they're not working for me to get me hired somewhere. They're working for their company or their client that has the job posting. Going back to that idea on the job market. But also, I have been spending a full-time job equivalent trying to search for work. And not just search for work, but go through many, many, many interviews that I've had. And inevitably, they have panned out to not only nothing, but it's not just from the fact that some employers, they don't have the time to be able to reach out and be able to state whether or not they're going to choose you, but also it's just been a complete waste of my time, right? And one of the things that I could always say is if I spent my time applying to jobs, searching for work, trying to find the traditional means of doing things, and it's not getting me results, I'm stuck in the average of D tier, then I have to choose to do something different now. And I'm sure many of you will find that same idea or concept is going to resonate with you too. Because again, I refuse to have my time be wasted any longer. If you were to get to know an individual, let's take this outside of the job market context for a second. If you were to try and get to know a new individual, personally speaking, and you're over a phone call or a virtual talk, 15, 30 minutes, are you really going to be able to have the deepest grasp, be able to write a thesis on this person? No, of course not, right? That's not going to happen. But also in context, if you're trying to really spend multiple sessions of doing that same thing and you still can't grasp whether or not that person is going to be a good fit with you, and again, you could tie that to the personal life or the work life, then ultimately things have to move on. So ultimately, if a good opportunity does happen to come around, I say for myself, I'm going to push for it. But especially for anybody like you, push for it. Good opportunities do exist. It's just really hard to get through all of this nuance, as I'll call it. But ultimately, the more time that everybody has spent waiting around, that doesn't achieve anything. It's a wasted time for both people like myself and you and I together. And we're not looking to do that. And especially on this channel, I'm looking to provide value in any way, any moment of time that I can, because I'm looking to make an impact. That's really what I want to do. So you might be struggling to find your place, whether in the job market or in general. There's a chance that you might feel like an outcast in some parts of your life. I've certainly felt that way within the past year as well. Specifically, if I were to think of a point in time that best relates to me right now. But there is something I heard while watching a show recently, and it was this: true human nature is measured by one's character. Really let that settle in. And I spend a lot of time here talking about human character by attributes of character, and really how much of a difference that it makes when someone ultimately understands their version of human character. So today on Aveya Talks, I'm sharing my life and my world perspective because I know that I'm not the only one who has been feeling this way. But what I want you to do is share your story with me. Tell me your struggle as of late in the comments below. Are you also feeling or have been feeling that sense of a hollow state? Because I refuse to lose this ongoing fight. Not just within the environment around me, but within myself too. Let's build a world where we aren't just variables amongst the giants. Take care, traveler. The ascent is coming soon. Build your systems, not just living day to day, but go back and create, recreate, modify the systems that you have. And someday we will all reach to our next destination, whatever it is, at some point in time. Just got to keep going. But just know, I'll be right there with you because I don't want to be left behind either.